Jodi Schwan at SiouxFalls.business, and I'm very excited to be bringing you a conversation with two business leaders in the financial services sector. Lots to talk about. First Premier and Premier Bankcard. I'm excited for the chance to catch up with Miles Beacom, CEO of Premier Bankcard, and Dave Rozenboom, President of First Premier Bank. Thanks both of you for being with me today. As I've said to so many people, wow, how things have changed since the last time I caught up with both of you. Let me first just get a sense from you of the landscape of what life is like today inside your businesses. What's driving your activity? What are some of those key priorities and issues that you have been tackling? Miles, you're the first face I see on my screen, so I'm going to let you take it away first if that works for you.
Okay. And Jodi, the thing that's really surprising with what's happened with the coronavirus is for the last 15 to 20 years, we've done a mock disaster recovery every year. And we've done pandemics, we've done tornadoes, we've done flooding. But in all of our planning, we've never planned for a situation such as this, in which not only do we have to really take care of our people who helped us build the business, but our customers and our community as well. And to see what has happened with the coronavirus in loss of jobs that are out there, people working from home, the travel on the road just empty, and the purchases really dropping down. So we've had a huge impact of things, and even access and the quality of access of work at home with internet access, inline access, and a number of things that we truly did not test in the past that we thought we were really prepared for. So it's been a great learning experience for us, and I'd say our team at First Premier Bank and at Premier Bankcard have done a great job with us, working together with us to make sure that we can continue to offer our customers a great service, and again, really be involved with the community with some of the things that we've done. But some of the things, the first thing we really tried to do, and this is back in early March, we sent our first update out to our staff, and that was on March 10th, really to make sure that they're following the advice of the community and really washing their hands, and if they're sick, to stay home. And then shortly after that, we just seen the nervousness within our teams, and rightfully so as well. And so we said, and at the same time they stopped, had a temporary stop of school. And so a lot of people, a lot of our staff, their kids were home, and they're trying to juggle, okay, what do I do? Do I go to work? Do I stay home with the kids? Can I find care for the kids? And at that time, it was on March 20th that we said, if somebody's will be tested positive for the coronavirus, that we would give 2 extra weeks of vacation for them, or if their spouse or any of the dependents living with them, so that they can stay home and take care of themselves. And at the same time, we said, there's a lot of unrest right now with our staff, and especially with the kids being home. And we said, let's give another week of vacation to these people, so another week of PTO for all of our staff. And we communicated at that point in time, and it was really to make sure if they needed to stay home, and maybe it's 1 day a week, if it's 2 days, whatever it may be, they'd have the ability to do that and not have to worry. So we very early made some changes there, and I think that's paid some big dividends. But then the other thing that we really started doing was really looking at the people that we currently have working at home and the ones that don't. And we said, okay, let's put together, on the card side, we said, let's put together the strategy. If we need to be out of the building for 5 days, what functions have to be able to be performed that we could perform at home? And we identified those individuals, and we started testing those. And that was all tested a couple of weeks ago. And then we said, okay, if we need to be out of the office for 4 weeks, what functions are critical that have to continue to be done? And we tested those. And so today, we've been able to move a number of people outside of the organization. So in Sioux Falls at our headquarters, and when I say at capacity, we count the number of desks in our facility and the number of people, and we're at 48% capacity. And that's the max in a single day. And that could be, we run from 6 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. So not all those people would be here at one time as well. So you have to remember that. But we're continuing to drive that down, and our goal is to be able to drive that down to about 40% capacity by the end of next week. So we're continuing to do different things and really strategize, saying, how can we continue to serve our customers and do the right thing for our team and our staff?
Dave, on the bank side, what kind of accommodations have you had to make? First of all, as far as the workforce goes, workflow I know has been huge. We're going to get to that. But what about the workforce?
So our sister company at Premier Bankcard operates out of 4 facilities. And on the bank side, it's quite different. We operate out of 17 facilities, all along Eastern South Dakota. And so, you know, the situation we face from an employee density standpoint, any of our locations, is just a different situation than what our co-company is over at Premier Bankcard. Yet we have an operations center. One of the things that we faced on the bank side for that was that a lot of our departments were located in a single facility. So we might have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 people in a given department, but what we found through this whole process, they were all located in one spot. And so we really felt the need to, wherever we could, and really I think we've done now in every department, have found a way to operate out of 3 separate distinct facilities for each of our departments. What made that really possible was when we, back in, I think it was March 23, was when we made the decision in our lobbies, our retail branches, to go to appointment only and just utilize drive-through transaction services with our tellers. Everything else is done by appointment. So that gave us 16 additional lobbies that we could take some of our operations team and distribute them into multiple locations. It was something we hadn't planned on, but in retrospect, by closing our lobbies to inflow traffic, it gave us that flexibility, and that was critical for us.
That's really interesting. You know, I mean, we're talking here now about a combined workforce of about 2,300 people. I know you've had a couple identified cases among employees. I mean, let's be honest, you're going to have cases. I mean, any business that large is going to experience this as it moves throughout the community. So what's the protocol? What do you do? How's it working so far? And, you know, what kind of steps do you find that you're taking within the workplace? You've still got hundreds of people in some cases coming into buildings throughout the day. Are we cleaning a lot? Are we separating people? I mean, what's the approach here?
Yes, there we started increasing all of our cleaning probably the middle of March. And then now whenever somebody goes home sick for a cold, a flu, they want to be tested, or they call in, we make sure that we go and really sanitize their area down as well. And it's probably a process. What we heard is even from not shaking hands that the flu has really dropped. And so we'll probably continue to that process into the future because it's just another way to keep people healthy within the organization. But by also sending people home and by really reducing the number of people in each of our facilities, we've been able to spread people out as well. And we also closed down our break rooms and our lunch rooms. And so people can't go and meet there. If they have lunch, they go back to their workstation or their desk and they have their lunch. So that has really stopped a lot of the mingling that would be really susceptible for germs being spread. So I think we've done some really good things there as well. And it's listening to the people. And again, if people, we tell them if you're not feeling good, stay home. Don't come in where you have the ability to spread something to your coworkers.
Jodi, I would add that we benefit from a very close relationship with Sanford Health. And so we've utilized Dr. Allison Suttle. She's the Chief Medical Officer. She's become more famous on TV than I'm sure she would care to be at this point. But she's been a tremendous resource to us. She understands that we're a large employer. She understands that we care deeply for the employees that have helped make us so successful as an organization. And she has been an extension of our decision-making. And quite frankly, between the CDC and between Dr. Suttle, we have, I think, implemented every aspect that we could do to maintain a safe workforce, understanding that we still have a job to do, and I know we'll get to that later in the interview, but that connection to Dr. Suttle has been extremely valuable to us, helping us make good decisions.
You know, you did anticipate my next question, which has to do with this notion of essential businesses. And regardless of where the city or the state ends up in this conversation about what is an essential business and who should be allowed to go to work, we know that financial institutions across the board nationwide, they're considered essential. Let's talk a bit about the functions that are occurring within First Premier and Premier Bankcard, and why it's maybe not as easy as giving somebody a laptop and sending them home to log in and continuing to do this work. Why do they have to keep coming into the building?
Well, let me tackle that first, and then I'll invite Miles to fill in. So, of course, everyone's concerned with their physical health during this pandemic, and everybody would recognize and understand that. But very closely tied to one's psyche is their financial health. And so I can't think of two things that are any more precious to people than both physical and financial health and well-being. And so we've understood from day one, you know, we've got a big responsibility here, and we fill a very important role in the economy. But quite frankly, we fill a very important role in the lives of individual people. And so that is something we take with a great sense of responsibility. I'll give you a couple of examples that people wouldn't naturally think of when you think of a local community bank like First Premier. And I'll just back up and say, absolutely, we do consumer banking, and we do business banking, and we do mortgage banking. But we do some things that are pretty unique for a community bank our size. As an example, we are the 12th largest originator of ACH, which is an automated clearinghouse transaction. And the most common ACH transaction would be a direct deposit of payroll. And so last month, during the month of March, we processed $28 billion of ACH payroll transactions. We have customers in all 50 states, and we receive a file from a payroll processing company, and then we distribute that into the individual accounts of employees all around the country. Again, last month, just 1 month alone, $28 billion of that. You cannot send an employee home with a laptop to process those kind of files, that kind of volume, and quite frankly, have that kind of security that you require. All banks process ACH. Very few do it at the scale we do it. I mentioned again, we're 12th largest in the country. Give you another example. Wire transfer services. We've heard of healthcare systems looking for PPE, protective equipment. The market for PPE requires immediate payment. You don't send an invoice to somebody at the end of the month to get that paid. So our wire transfer desk is busy with wire transfers for essential goods and services that need immediate payment, not paid on account. Again, just a couple examples. I could go on and hopefully have a chance to do more.
I think that gives a good flavor for it. And Miles, same thing, big national industry player in your space. Why must some of that work be completed in person, in a physical space?
Yeah. And again, a lot of people don't understand or realize the size we are, but we have 3.2 million active customers. We're the 13th largest issuer of MasterCard in the country. And when you have that, we also have a lot of payments coming in, a lot of transactions coming in. We receive over 3 million phone calls every single month from our customers, and we have to make sure that we're handling those. On the payment side, we're close to 3 million payments coming in. We have to process those, and if they mismatch on an account, we have to do our investigation to make sure the right customer is posted. The purchases that are occurring, just last month, we had $176 million of purchases on our accounts. And so you look at that and you go, well, you have customer service folks at home, and you have collection folks at home, and you can have finance, you can have those. But at the same time, we have to remember that everyone's gone out to work at home, and the school kids are home now, and the kids are working on their computers at home. Spouses are at home working on their computers. And so there's a tug of war on these computers, and we probably have sent about 200 computers from our organization home for people to be able to work on, so they would have access and have complete access to be able to service our customers without sharing them with their spouse or their children. Individuals within our organization that had the laptops, it was an easy process to make. Then it makes it a little bit more difficult once you're going out there and servicing when there's other factors out there. And the other thing we have to remember is now all these lines are coming into our organization from the outside, and we're really putting a strain on capacity as well. So that's why we're continuing to build up slowly and week by week, and hopefully we're pretty well completed with this over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. I think that gives us a good sense of just the massive undertaking that's been taking place here, in parallel with a lot of demand for your services from many different directions. I'm going to go back to Dave now to talk business banking. Obviously, you have a lot of business clients. That's a whole nother conversation, as the SBA has offered some sort of never before seen types of programs. What kind of impact has that had on your team? And give me just a sense of where that sits today, because I know that's an ever-evolving situation as far as businesses attempting to access those funds.
Thanks, Jodi. This has been a remarkable team effort between Congress, the Department of Treasury, the Small Business Administration, and banks all around the country to provide companies with funding, forgivable loans that enable those individual small businesses and nonprofit organizations to have about 2 months or 8 weeks worth of funding for their payroll if they retain or restore employment levels. And just to give you a local flavor, our team, that was passed into law March 31. We literally that night were reading the CARES Act bill, the Paycheck Protection Program details, and getting ready for an April 3 launch of that program. And the funding, by the way, the $349 billion that was allocated to that program has been exhausted as of this morning. Thrilled to be able to say that we jumped on that early, developed a wonderful process, and were able to approve and get through the system 769 applications, which we were able to approve, and a staggering $104 million of loans that we've approved and will close in the next couple of weeks, putting our small business customers and those nonprofit organizations, putting their minds at ease and allow them to focus on their changing business conditions and not have to worry about whether they have funding to meet payroll for the next 8 weeks. A tremendous program, a brilliant design to the program. And I know not everybody was able to execute quite when they wanted to, but by the end of the day, we did a tremendous amount of good, and we were thrilled to be able to stand tall.
What are you hearing as far as will they be adding resources to that program? It seems like there's an appetite for that.
Yep. I'm certain that additional resources will be added. If people can follow that on the national news, just like I can, because they get the same access to that information. But the demand is clearly there, and I would expect additional funding will be put in place, details to follow.
Are there any common questions that you're getting from businesses that might be good to address here?
Well, I think the first thing, it was a rush to apply and to get approved. And now we just have a few, it's a 10-day closing requirement from when you're approved to get the funds actually, the loan closed and the funds in your account. And then the funding will be there for 8 weeks. So we're just kind of in this rush to get those closed within that 10-day window. But then I really want to emphasize the responsibility that that small business owner or that nonprofit organization has to fulfill their end of the bargain here. It is a forgivable loan to the extent that you comply with the requirements. And so I think a lot of information will be flowing and probably use a variety of tools. We'll be directly communicating with our customers, but I think there'll be ways to get that information out to make sure nobody gets caught unaware.
Right, right. Before I do let you guys go, though, I want to touch on one more thing, and that is just the community aspect of all of this. I think back now, it's been a few weeks, boy, it feels like a lot longer, but when the city first announced the One Sioux Falls Fund to help those who have been adversely impacted, I know the first call was to your organizations, and you stepped up. You helped seed that fund, as you have many times before. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you for that. And get your sense as far as your thoughts on what this is all going to mean for our community going forward. I mean, what are you hearing from people out there, business customers, but just your friends and your neighbors as you're hearing about those who have been affected? What does Sioux Falls look like today, and what do you see it looking like as this whole thing continues?
what I see it is, and what I've heard is just a very uneasy, easy time where people just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And a lot of them are laid off. When you look at the unemployment numbers and how high they are, there's just a lot of confusion and questions right now. So even the checks that have recently gone out, I think they're helpful, but the anxiety is still out there. And the other thing that we haven't touched on is the hardship programs that the bank has performed, as well as cards. Our 3.2 million customers, we sent emails out to every one of them about 4 weeks ago, saying if they'd like to skip their next 2 payments, they're welcome to in this hardship program, and to contact us. And I thought we would just get inundated and have 500,000 to 1 million customers signed up for that. And we only have, it's right around 150,000 customers, which is really a small piece when you look at it. And it just shows you how important the product is for them. And the bank has done something very similar with their loan programs as well. But we still see the payments coming in because they still need that tool to be able to purchase. So both for our customers and for our local communities as well. And that's why we stepped up as an organization to match the city's contribution early on. And then Denny stepped forward and not only doing $1 million for Sioux Falls, but close to $500,000 for the other communities that we're in.
Jodi, I'd just answer that by saying, we're all in this together. Nobody's immune for it. We have, clearly a line of sight on the health of our employees and people in the community. We also have a line of sight on the economy and getting people back to work. And so there's this healthy debate going on in our community right now. Certainly a healthy debate going on across the country. But I would simply say that when it's all said and done, we will all be in this together. We don't know how it will play out, but if we stick together, we have a great chance of coming out on the other side in a very good and positive way, and learn a lot of lessons in between.
Mm-hmm. Thanks very much. Dave Rozenboom, First Premier Bank, Miles Beacom, Premier Bankcard. I appreciate you being with me. We absolutely will keep in touch with you as this goes on, and hopefully we'll be talking recovery here before long. But thanks for what you do. Stay healthy, and we certainly will check back in with you again soon.
Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.